And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a special hello goes out to the Director of Media for the Boston Bruins alumni, Mr. Mark Boland. I see you, Marky.
Welcome to the Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast, the home of behind-the-scenes interviews, stories, and memories that celebrate the heritage of the great game of hockey. The Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast is hosted by Mark Willand.
On the near side to Poulin, broken up and then taken by Propp, through into the zone, he's on a breakaway. Look out, short-handed, score! 3 short-handed goals and a hat trick for Brian Propp. Holy cow, welcome to Flyers hockey on this Sunday.
Episode 24 of the Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast features one of hockey's all-time best left wings, Brian Propp, who played 15 NHL seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers, Minnesota North Stars, Boston Bruins, and the Hartford Whalers. After an unbelievable junior career with the Brandon Wheat Kings of the WCHL, Brian was drafted by the Flyers in the first round, 14th overall in the 1979 NHL draft. He'd go on to score 1,004 points over 1,016 NHL games and rank second in Flyers history in goals with 369 and is second in assists with 480 behind Bobby Clarke. In his career, Brian scored 425 goals and had 4 seasons of 40 or more goals. He played in 5 NHL All Star games and 5 Stanley Cup Finals. And of course, he played on the star-studded Team Canada squad in the 1987 Canada Cup. Brian was also a sensational postseason player and holds the NHL's all-time record for points by a left wing with 148. In 1999, Brian was named to the MasterCard Canadian Junior All-Time Team, which included Mario Lemieux, Guy Lafleur, Bobby Orr, Dennis Potvin, and Bernie Parent. Not bad company. Brian's gone on to great success in the business world and remains very active with the Philadelphia Flyers alumni. His recovery from a stroke he suffered in 2015 is truly inspirational. Easygoing and professional, Brian Propp is the man of the people and a real credit to the Flyers organization. Just a reminder, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on iTunes. Now, let's talk classic hockey with Brian Propp. We're back on the show with 5-time NHL All Star and one of the great left wings in hockey history, Brian Propp. Brian, thanks so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Thanks. It's nice to have you here.
Brian, I saw you during the summer, and I have to tell you, I was probably a little bit ticked off when I did because you and I are about the same age, and you look like you're about 20 years younger. You still got that Brian Propp perfect hair, and look like you're in playing shape. What's the secret, my friend?
Well, I think it is. I don't have a lot of weight that I carry. I still have the same weight when I played hockey, and I skate twice a week all year, Wednesday and Friday mornings with a group of guys that I know in the morning hockey league, and so it gives me some exercise there. And I'm also the ambassador for the Flyers, so I go to every home game, and I just stay busy. And but it was nice to meet you at the Hartford alumni baseball game.
Absolutely. Well, whatever you're doing is working, and again, we appreciate you being here today. When I first came across Brian Propp, obviously coming from Massachusetts, I didn't see you play junior hockey, and you came in to junior hockey with great success as a young kid, and you played. And so what I would do is I would get the hockey news, and I'd usually start at the back. And I'd go to the back, and you get the Western Canadian news, and you would just see these incredible numbers that you, Billy Delego, Ray Allison were putting up in that Brandon team for the 3 years you were there, the Brandon Wheat Kings, one of the great junior teams of all time. Talk a little bit about the chemistry first with your line mates, Bill Delego and Ray Allison, and how all that came together out in Brandon.
I grew up in Saskatchewan, and so I played for the Melville Millionaires when I was 15. And so I always tell people that I was a millionaire once. And after that, I got escorted at Brandon, and then I met Brad McCrimmon because he played junior in Saskatchewan, about the same age as me. And Ray Allison, I saw him at the camp like the year before. And I still really good friends with Ray Allison. He lives in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I see him all the time. And Billy Derlego, he was a great player at that time too. But we should get the credit to Dunk McCallum, the coach, because he played for 15 years in the NHL, and he learned how to make us much better and get us prepared to play pro.
I think when I look at that team, one of the interesting things about it is I think there were like 14 of you guys in your last year that had over 100 penalty minutes. So in addition to all the prolific scoring and defense, I mean, I think you only lost, you personally, in 3 years there, you lost less than 20 games.
Yeah.
But a real tough bunch of young guys there too. Can you talk about that?
Oh yeah, so it was nice to have Dave Semenko there, and a couple of tougher guys, Lockridge, and Brad McCrimmon was he could hold his own, and but yeah, we had Glenn Hanlon, who was a goalie, and but we always had tough players that we could fight on, but. I think it was good about like how we came together. We had 4 good lines and a great power play, and we were talented. And at that time, it was a 20-year-old draft, and right. So it changed a little bit when the NHL merged to an 18-year-old draft. But at that time, it was you play a couple more years and get more experience. And kind of go from there, and but it was a tough league, and but we found a way to play consistently and to find out a way to win. Like you said, I only lost 5 games the last 32 of my last year in junior.
Mm-hmm. You were putting up numbers like Gretzky-like numbers in junior yourself. And as I recall, at the end of the 1978 season, you, Brad McCrimmon, and I believe Ray Allison had an opportunity to play in the World Hockey Association, and you declined it. I'm assuming with Birmingham. Can you recall that? Is that accurate? And did you get a chance to play in the WHA?
Yeah, it was. We all decided that, hey, listen, we wanted to win the Memorial Cup, and so like we decided we'd hang in for another year, and I didn't know that the World Hockey Association would fold, so it didn't help us because there was no bargaining part after that. But but it's still it gave us another year to mature. We did well, and from that, I think it helped me just to win the all-time left wing in the Canadian history for the junior leagues.
Absolutely. And looking at that team, Brian, I have to ask, because now you lose Bill Derlego, but you get Laurie Boschman now as your center. You guys are better than ever, and you obviously go to the Memorial Cup, come up short, I believe, against Peterborough. Is that accurate? And that's, I'm going by memory here. And I guess my question is, how in the heck did they ever beat the Brandon Wheat Kings that year?
Well, I mean, Peter had a pretty good team too, and so the final game was in Verdun because at that time Montreal was playing against Boston in the finals, and so we had to change the game to Verdun, and when it was tied. We tied the game 1-1, and we lost in the second overtime. Brad McCrimmon, he almost played the whole game, but that was that's how good he was. But it was tough to lose that way. But both goalies played really well, and so it could have gone any way.
Brian, the draft that year, you noted the draft change in age for 1979 as the 4 WHA teams came in. and you fell to 13th, which ends up becoming, obviously it impacts the rest of your life because you go to an established team, a very solid team with a lot of veteran presence, very successful team in the Philadelphia Flyers. And I was curious about, first of all, when you were drafted by the Flyers, what your first reaction was going to a team like that with Bobby Clarke, and I think Bill Barber was still there.
Oh yeah, a lot of them were, but yeah, I didn't really pay attention to the draft because I was working in the summer, and so like I it's not like it is today where you have people going to the games and trying to get drafted. Yeah, but as you said, it was an 18-year-old draft. Like that's where Boschman was picked up number 8, I think, and Bork was like 9, and a couple of the other guys in the World Hockey Association got picked up before that because of their experience. But yeah, as you said, it worked out really well for me because I loved playing with the Philadelphia Flyers. I loved their style, and they they won a couple cups, and they had a good team, and leadership was there, like Bobby Clarke, Bill Barber, Reggie Leach, Bob Kelly, like all these guys that helped me for a couple of years that I was there yet. And but I was really quiet when I got drafted. I was very naive, and I didn't talk much. But Bobby Clarke, he did all the talking for me. And then after a couple of years, I learned as I matured, just to be in control of my my own playing. And it took we went to the finals the first year in 80, and then I learned from that, and then we lost a couple of years after that for the Rangers, and so I learned a lesson because I had to be much better in the playoffs, especially in the first rounds, and so but it just took a little time, but as I learned, I was able to play with great teams, and and then after a couple of years, like Brad McCrimmon got traded to the Flyers, and Ray Allison was playing with us, and so, we kind of reunited.
Going back to that first year, when you combine your last year in Brandon, which had just 5 losses over the entire season, and now you're on a record-setting winning streak at the beginning of the season in 79-80 with the Flyers, you didn't lose a lot of hockey games for 2 years of your career. I wonder if you were getting used to you winning all the time.
Well, that's the way it is. I mean, you really learned how to win. Especially with good leadership, and the Flyers had good teams. Everyone knew their role, and we had tough guys, and so that was made a little easier. Sort of like Boston, like they had some tough guys, and so it was always tough to play against them. But the more you win, the better you find that your team does. Mm-hmm. And I think like today, it's a little different because every team is so even, and it's harder to win. And plus the way that they play with the points of tie and overtime and shootouts, it can affect the way the end of the outcome.
Brian, you went to the Stanley Cup Finals an incredible 5 times in your career. 3 times with the Flyers. Now, with the Flyers, of course, you hit the beginning of the Islander dynasty in a controversial Game 6 loss in that final, and then you hit the prime of the Edmonton Oilers dynasty in 85 and 87. When you look back at those finals appearances, do you have any frustration or regret as you reflect upon it?
I think it was a little tough because Edmonton was so good, and we had injuries, and plus when we played against the other conference, it was a lot tougher to get by them. Mm-hmm. I mean, at that time, like they swept almost every season, and so like they were fresh. And Gretzky and the 5 of Hall of Famers that were in their prime, made it tough. But we still did a good job because I think the people in Philadelphia loved that we did took it to 7 games, and we remembered for that. Even though we didn't win, it was tough for me to win. But I think as you said, my first year against the Islanders, if we win in overtime in Game 6. Who knows? It could be Game 7, and we go back to Philadelphia. I could have won a Stanley Cup there. But being there means a lot to me because I was in the playoffs 13 straight years in the playoffs, and I always competed, and so I was really happy with the way I played. And then then in the 80, 85, and 87. We lost in 5 and then 7 in 87, and then I went to Boston and went to the finals there, and then I went to Minnesota and lost in the finals there. So, but it's tough to win a Stanley Cup, but being there meant a lot to me.
Absolutely, and you performed extremely well in the postseason in a variety of those years, really. Right from the beginning of those years, you were involved in 5 long, grinding Stanley Cup runs that came up a little bit short, and some of them were unlikely. Minnesota, for example. But I think going back to what you were talking about before, you probably learned that the postseason is almost like a season in itself, and those were tough stretches to stay, I assume, mentally and physically ready, game in and game out.
Yeah, that's true. It's a long season, but the better players find a way to win. And as I said, I learned, I went to the finals my rookie year. We had the 35 undefeated streak, and so that I learned from there, how to win. But the leadership with Bobby Clarke was pretty. He's awesome. And so I played with him for 5 years, and then he went to the GM. And then so after a time, we had other leaders And when Brad McCrimmon got traded to Philadelphia, and Dave Poulin and Tim Kerr and a couple of players like that, and Mark Howe, it was key to have Mike Howe there. So and a lot of these guys are still alumni from the Whalers too. So nice. I remind them. I get to see them all the time too.
Right. Well, don't remind Whaler fans about Mark Howe. That was. That was brutal. I think I may have been at college at the time, and I heard that trade in 1983, I believe, and I just said to myself, I cannot believe that we just traded Mark Howe from the Hartford Whalers, and you guys never looked back. There was a great pairing there with Mark and Brad McCrimmon, and that was a cornerstone of your team for some great success going forward.
Oh yeah, without Mark Howe, it would have been much tougher. Because he's such a great player and still is. He learned how to from his dad how to do play really well, consistent. He had a good shot, but he could skate forever, and he was. I thought that he should have won the Norris a couple times. But he's in the Hall of Fame now, and great guy, and I love talking with him. He's got some good stories, as all of us do. But that's the thing, when we played in the 80s and 90s, we had more time to be with the guys and stay with longer teams, and we had more fun playing hockey, I think.
No doubt about it. And speaking of having fun, in 1987. You're selected to play with perhaps the greatest team ever assembled by Canada in the Canada Cup in 1987. Talent level, mind-boggling. You have an opportunity to play with Gretzky in Lemieux at various times. Talk a little bit about that experience. It had to be pretty incredible for you.
Yeah, at that time, the Russians couldn't be drafted until 1990. And so they had to defect, and if they played in the NHL. So at that time, it was the Russians they kind of geared themselves for the Olympics and the Canada companies. And so in that year, it was great hockey. It was a 3-game series, which a lot of people in Canada still remember because every score was 6-5, and we ended up winning, in the final. But that was so great for me because after being in 3 Stanley Cup Finals and to finally see on the winning side with the Canada Cup, that meant a lot to me. And with playing with Gretzky and Lemieux and Bourque and Coffey and all these great players, and Howard Chuck, and I still talk with them all the time. Howard Chuck usually has a golf tournament in Winnipeg that I play in the summers, and but it's a good group of guys that still remember when we won, because of that year, the 3-game series was pretty awesome, and but to win it meant a lot to me. So to me, it was like winning a Stanley Cup, and I think we didn't play in the Olympics at that time. So I was just thinking that winning this Canada Cup meant a lot to me.
Absolutely. Just watching those games again on YouTube just gives you the goosebumps. The talent, the skill, and the ultimate triumph was pretty incredible. Coach Mike Keenan is somebody who's very, I guess, speaks for himself. Everybody knows Mike's deal. He's won a lot. He's been controversial. Some players respond well to him, and some don't. You happen to respond very well to Mike Keenan. Talk a little bit about Mike as a coach and your relationship with him.
Yeah, so he was just a kind of a rookie coach at the start. He came from college, but he knew what he was doing, and we had good teams at that time too. And I loved the thought that he wanted to win every game. So he could play 2 or 3 lines if he was down, and if they were ahead, he would use the 3rd or 4th year lines to check a little bit more in case they needed to. But I love that he tried to win every game. And now I think they think too much, the coaching, and they rotate 4 lines, and they say that they're tired. I don't agree with that, but to each their own.
I was going to ask you too, Brian. You mentioned Brad McCrim a couple of times, and for the fans who may not have known him, you obviously played junior hockey with him. You played with the NHL twice, with Philadelphia and with Hartford. Can you tell us a little bit about what Brad was like as a person and a teammate?
Oh yeah, well he was the same age as me, pretty much, and we both grew up in Saskatchewan. So we played in the league where the Malville Millionaires and Prince Albert played. So we got to know each other. At that time, we used to hate each other. And then I went to Brandon, and then we loved each other. But he was a great leader. He was the captain all the time. Like he talked with the coach, Dunk McCollum, all the time. And he gave me he had a car. So I got some rides from him because I had to walk everywhere. I didn't own a car until I turned pro. So I had a bum ride. So it was nice that I lived a little close to where the rink was. Yeah, but we hung out together. We did a lot of things together. And we in Philadelphia, Mark Howell was a roommate with me, and I was usually in his room all the time. But they had good stories to tell. We had a lot of fun together. These guys could tell some stories that curl your hair because. But we had so much fun because we won, and we knew how to be disciplined, and we took care of ourselves, and we really made a difference. But having the great leadership like with Mark Howe and Brad, I mean that it carries on. And Bob Clarke, at the start there too, like Gretzky, all these players that have been great leaders. Like I learned from them, and after a few years, I became a little older, and I kind of taught the other guys like Tocchet and Zezel and Mellenby and Smith, because they were rookies in '85, and so they learned how to win and have a good career from there. And then I stay in contact with Mellenby and Tocchet and Lilly and a couple other guys. So, I've always been in Philadelphia for almost 40 years now, and I'm on the board of the Flyers alumni. But I know what everybody does. I have all their information, their cell numbers, their work, and so it's nice for me to connect with all of them.
Well, certainly the Snyder family, Ed in particular, built an organization that was certainly an elite organization for a long time, both on the ice and off. I always admired that organization, and the things you're talking about now kind of echo that, where the camaraderie among the guys who played there is very, very strong through today. And I always felt that the Flyers had honored their former players and had a lot of respect for the guys who had built the organization on the ice. And it's nice to hear that you're able to continue that tradition along with the Flyers alumni, which is a great organization. As you know, I work with the Boston Bruins alumni, and
Sure.
We notice a lot of just online, even the Flyers alumni is very consistent in promoting that organization as well.
Yeah, now we have Gritty, the mascot.
Right, that's right.
So that's a new guy that we have.
Absolutely.
But our Philadelphia Flyers, like ever since they won the Stanley Cups, a lot of them still live and work in the cities, and a lot of these players are with the team still. Like Brad Marsh is the president of the alumni; he works for the team. Bob Kelly works for the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm the ambassador with Bernie Prawn and Dave Schultz. And we have other coaches there, and we've got scouts, and unfortunately Hextall's out now, but we'll find another guy, and it's what Snyder built was so nice because everybody had a character and they knew how they act, and in Philadelphia it's sort of like Boston. You've got a lot of alumni in Boston that love to play hockey and do other things there. And it's like a small city, but everyone's proud of it. And in Philadelphia, it's the same way.
Brian, speaking of Boston, you end up getting traded for a second-round pick. You come to Boston, and you continue your winning ways. When you came here, I believe you were on a line with Craig Janney and Cam Neely, and that team goes on an excellent run in the playoffs. It's the first time you had been traded. First of all, I was curious how you were you surprised by this, how you were told about it, and your reaction on becoming a Boston Bruin?
Yeah, that year, the 1 year, I just got hurt at my hand. I had an artery taken out of my hand, and so I lost 25 games. Mm-hmm. But then I got to play right at the end of the season. And so when I was on a road trip, the Flyers let me know that I got traded. And at that time, Bob Clarke was the GM, and at that time, I think they were looking to do things a little different. I think they wanted Jay Snyder to run the team, and he was smart, but he lost a couple of veterans, and you can't replace some of those players, but it was good for me to get traded to Boston because at that time Boston was number one in the league, and then Dave Poulin also got traded in January, right. So I got to know him. So we killed penalties together, and so we knew what was going on. But having Bork and Neely and Jamie was there, it was awesome for me to be a part of that, and unfortunately. We went to the finals, and in triple overtime, we lost the first game, and sometimes that hurts. Mm-hmm.
You were the same draft year as Ray Bourque, of course. You guys played in 5 All Star games, and Bourque probably played in all of those with you. I was curious about your impression of him when you became a teammate, and now you're with him every day, you're practicing every day. What were your impressions of him now as a teammate of Ray Bourque?
Yeah, well, it started from because he was a rookie when Brad McCrimmon was a rookie in Boston, so I got to know Brad, and then from Brad I knew Bourque, and by playing against him all those years, you kind of knew what a good player he was, and so you hated to play against him because he was so good, but at the same time you always knew that he was a good leader. And so, like Boston, when you're young, you learn a little bit more, and as you get older, you figure it out. And so, having Bourque as the captain and Dave Poulin and myself there, it really did make a difference of, we went into the finals and we were expecting to win, and unfortunately it didn't work, but, it's still good memories that I have of him. And, and it was, I wish that we won the cup there, because at that time it might have been my other nicer time for me to win at that time too. And plus, I was running out of years. But, and then it took Bork like 22 years to win a cup, but he finally did.
Sure did. Brian, I want to take one step back. I forgot to ask you about one thing that was truly one of the worst moments of the 1980s in hockey, I feel. And you took a nasty, for lack of a better term, cheap shot from Chris Chelios in 1989. Terrible hit, terrible to watch. And my question for you is, you were a tough guy. You battled when you had a battle. You did what you had to do all the way throughout your career. You're also a human being, of course. And my question is, I'm just asking it from my own perspective. You take a hit like that, how long psychologically, physically, who knows, but psychologically, how long does it take to recover from that when you're playing with just the same reckless abandon? Does it happen right away, or is it a process?
No, it's a process, because, I got knocked out. I was out for the whole day, and hospital, I didn't remember what was going on from there. But, and at that time, I had time to heal a little bit better, and so I still got to play in the final game that series, and I still remember. Thankfully, the season ended, and I had a little more time to heal my brain, and but I still remember the next couple of years. I always knew that I had to be in the corners, but I was a little thinking that something could happen again, and so that's part of the trip, that you have to kind of make sure that your brain is thinking the right way, and make sure that you have to make sure that that you have to kind of go through it. And so after a couple more years, then I finally start to feel a little bit more comfortable about getting hit in the head again. It took me a couple of years to really, to think that, hey, listen, this is something that's in the back of my mind. But after a time, you train your brain to be positive and to kind of overcome a few different things.
Very well said. You end up with the Minnesota North Stars. Bobby Clarke acquires you, and you have an absolutely unlikely run to the Stanley Cup Finals that year. It was kind of a tough season for Bob Gainey's group up there in Minnesota. You had some pretty good skill, obviously. You make a trade during the year, a big one involving Larry Murphy going the other way, ironically. And talk a little bit about what were your expectations going into the postseason, and then you're going, I can't remember all the series off the top of my head, but obviously you moved through 3 different teams to get to the finals. Was that something that was just a momentum type thing? Could you feel things coming together with the North Stars that year?
Well, we had good talent, like Broughton and Madonna and Gagne and Ternardi and Casey and Bellows, and so we had good talent. But the thing that I remember is that Bob Smith also came to us, and so I think with the two of us, we had good leadership, and because then when we got into the playoffs, we had to make sure that we're ready for them at that time, because that year, Chicago was number 1 in the league, and St. Louis was number 2 in the league, and Edmonton was in the Stanley Cup Cups, and then we went to Pittsburgh. So it, as I said, we got ready for the first round, and then we won the first game in overtime. I think I scored it, and so that really helped us against Chicago, because they were supposed to be winning the cup. And then we played against St. Louis, where Bob Gainey did a good job of checking a couple of checkers, like Brett Hall, and but we had good talent, and we had a great power play. sort of like the Islanders did in '80. And then from there, then we went to the Oilers, and we beat them, and then we won game number 1 in the Stanley Cup Finals. And but other than that, Pittsburgh, after a couple of years, Lemieux kind of took over the game in game like 5 and 6.
Right.
And then when you have great players like that, it's like having Gretzky, like one of the top of the league. And he'd been around for a few years, and so he figured out how to win too. So unfortunately for me, it didn't work that well. But at least we were there, and we kind of nated up. And then after a couple of years, they left Minnesota, and then they went to Dallas, and then they won in Dallas.
Right. Well, meanwhile, you conclude your NHL career as a member of the Hartford Whalers, and it's a special season. You reunite with Brad McCrimmon and a few of the people from the Flyers organization who were in Hartford at the time. But probably the most memorable thing, I guess, for myself from that year for you is, of course, the incredible circumstance as the season's winding down. You guys go to Philadelphia, and you scored 2 goals to reach 1,000 for your career with your family and everybody in Philadelphia. Can you talk a little bit about that game, how you were feeling, and just the emotion of a special night like that?
Oh yeah, it was really special for me because I knew that the milestone for 1,000 games and 1,000 points was within reach, and so I scored played my 1,000th game. And then 8 goals later, I scored my 1,000th point. And so, as they're both coming together, it was special for me in Philadelphia because I knew that, I had the family there and a bunch of friends. And so when I scored the first goal and then scored the second one, it was just kind of a relief because, then I could say that I scored 1,000 points and had 1,000 games. Those are milestones that really mean a lot to me. And even though we did get into playoffs that year, it was special for me. And, with Paul Holmgren at the start of the year there, and with Pierre Maguire helping coach, he gave me some more time to be on the power play at the end of the year, which helped me to get some points. And because I think I needed 26 points just to get into the 1,000 games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was really special. And having Pronger there as a rookie, right. That really helped. Brad McCrimmon really helped the Pronger how to learn how to play and how to work out a little bit more. So, just by having the good leadership like that, it helps all the people that are, going and wanting to play in the league again.
Brian, when your career concludes, I'm curious what your thought process is at that point. Did you have I know you ended up, I think, managing a hockey facility right off the bat, but yeah. What were as your career is winding down, you can anticipate that. Was there an adjustment to not having the same regimen, the same camaraderie, the same instant feedback from 15,000 people when you did something well? Did you have an adjustment psychologically when your career ended, or were you just ready to go and move on to the next part of your life?
Yeah, so I ended up, I played another year in France after the Hartford game. Mm-hmm. So I played for a year in France, which helped me to adjust, for the playing less games, but it was a great time. I enjoyed it immensely, and I got to meet a couple other people there. And so, and then it just took me a little time because as I built the Medford Ice Rink, I went through the whole process of building the rink, mm-hmm. Running the rink, and then, there for 3 years. And so, I was still in hockey, and I still did some work with the Flyers, all their charity events and things like that. And then the Flyers offered me a job as a color analyst for the Philadelphia Flyers in 1999. So that after 3 years at the Medford Ice Rink, they I didn't think I was good, but they changed in the middle of the season, so I didn't have a choice but to accept. And it took me a couple of years. I was pretty bad at the start, but with Tim Saunders helping me and Bill Clement helping me and Gene Hart helping me, you learn from that, and you go from there, and then you it's another career that you have. And so, I'm very fortunate that I was with the Flyers for 9 years doing that, and then 5 years at the Judge Group in Philadelphia. Now I'm at Wolf Commercial Real Estate for the 4 years.
As you discussed being at Wolf Commercial Real Estate, one thing that I've observed about you is you clearly understand the importance of networking, of giving back, of providing value to people in your relationships. Can you talk a little bit about that, how you proceed and what advice you would give to people who may be just starting their careers or maybe into their careers on the importance of building up a strong network of relationships like you have?
Yeah, so I think from playing hockey and after I finished in France, I spent a couple of years at the Medford Ice Rink, but I always went to other events. And so for me, it wasn't that much of an adjustment for me because I was so good at business. And so I figured out how to network with the right people, meet the right people, build relationships really well, being in front of other people. And so now I'm the ambassador for the Philadelphia Flyers every home game, and working at Wolf Commercial. And so I'm in the office almost every day, and but I love what I'm doing, and I go to events, and I usually take a lot of pictures and send the pictures out to the people. And but that all helps because the more people you meet, and having the hockey back group that supports me. When I did radio for 9 years, I know all the alumni from the different teams, and I still talk with them. Because it's nice for us in Philadelphia and Boston and New York and Pittsburgh and Washington. It's really close for us to hang out together, and we do some celebrity hockey games together, and we do golf together. You get in front of the other people all the time, and then you can ask for people to help you too. So I was always really good as a leader, and I'm still doing a lot of consulting for other teams and companies, and but it's I love it. I was just at an event last night for the FBI and police downtown Philadelphia, and I've been you get to know the key people there. Then you stay out of trouble.
I don't think you have to worry too much about that, but the lesson there is you were able to leverage what you accomplished in your career and now utilize that notoriety, if you will, and those accomplishments to benefit other people on a daily basis. And that's a great feeling, I'm sure, being able to wake up every day and say to yourself, hey, you're going to make a difference in somebody's life today. And that's really what, otherwise, I guess everything would have no purpose, and it would all be for selfish gain. But for yourself, you've turned that into an opportunity to make the world a better place, which is very admirable.
Yes, and I've been doing a couple of celebrity hockey games, at Wolf Commercial. That 3 celebrity hockey games, and we've raised over $100,000 on the two teams, two times. And so that all comes into the charities, and we support 6 different charities that we help with the celebrity hockey. And I do a couple other celebrity hockey games. One could be some other charities that I'm helping, and at Hartford, the police, so they had me last year at their hockey event, which was nice because I got to see a couple of our alumni playing hockey, and the baseball was fun because a lot of those guys, I got to see them again, and I love going back to Hartford.
Well, we love having you back. And just as we wrap up, Brian, obviously a few years ago, you suffered a stroke. And I'd be curious to know, and you've obviously battled hard to overcome all the issues related to that. And first of all, when that event happened and you had a chance to process this event, did it change your perspective of your life? Did it change you? Basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, a little bit, because it was pretty scary. In September 3rd of 2015, I had a massive stroke. I was then visiting with my family in Annapolis, and I wasn't feeling that well the first night, and then the second night when we were leaving, I fell out of bed. I lost a couple of teeth. All those years playing hockey, I never lost any teeth, so it was different. And my right side and hand didn't work, and so I couldn't talk. I couldn't speak for 3 months. The only thing I could say at the start was and Bernie Pront. So it took me a long time with the speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy to get much better, because I struggled a lot because I couldn't talk for 3 months, and then I had to relearn with my brain how to process a couple different things. I still have aphasia, so it means that I still get mixed up with my words here and there. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm doing pretty well, and I'm back to playing hockey twice a week with a group of guys that I know, and I play golf in the summer. And now I just can't hit the ball as far anymore because of my right fingers and right side doesn't work that well. So I can only hit it about 200 yards, but usually pretty straight. But I still have fun playing golf and meeting other people. It took me a year and a half to get much better. But I ended up staying very positive. I always wanted things to happen a lot quicker. Because I always felt better, but it just took a long time just to get much better. And and today, I do some speaking with strokes and what it can mean to them, and how it struggled for me. And I've kind of a couple different things that have really helped me. And I keep looking for other things in the brain. The brain is powerful. Mm-hmm. And how it can make a difference of how you act and react. And so I did a thing through the NHL program that they had me going to Colorado, and so I did a StelSem treatment there. And so the way they do that is that they take their blood out of your body and separate it in 3 different places, and then take out the StelSems and then put it back in your body. So I did that in January of 2017, and from that point on, I noticed immediately my speech was much better.
Oh, interesting.
And by me being out in the public with all the time, by me talking more, I feel relaxed, and I feel like I'm doing much better. Not getting mixed up. I just have to slow it down every once in a while if I'm too fast. But other than that, all the things that I've been doing have helped me and the people that I meet. I talk with them and tell them that not to get disheartened, and just to keep working through things and be positive, and it makes a whole difference.
Well, absolutely, you're very admirable and a real inspiration. You remind me a lot of our friend, Boston Bruins legend Rick Middleton, both in your career and what you've been able to do after your career. Very similar. And I really believe that Rick deserves Hall of Fame consideration. I believe you do as well. Your numbers speak for themselves. But in the meantime, I have really respected what you've done with your career and with your post-career. And great seeing you this summer. I hope to see you again next summer. And
I hope to too.
We really appreciate the time today and your insights. Very, very valuable. And thank you very much, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Pro Hockey Alumni Podcast. Be sure to visit us at prohockeyalumni.org.